Okay, so welcome everybody to how to get registered as an NDIS provider. My name's Gina Ingerall from Effective Policy and Compliance, which is a consultancy for NDIS and aged care providers. So today I'm going to run you through how you get registered as an NDIS provider. I can see my friend Sharon Paley there. Hello, Sharon. How lovely to see your face. What we've got is, as I said, need everyone on mute. That doesn't mean that you can't ask questions. I want you to ask questions, but if you've got noise going on in the background, it's not fair on everybody else. So you might have to put that question in the chat if you've got noise going on. Okay, terrific. So all right, let's kick off with my list of what I wanted to talk you through. So we've got at the moment in the room 37 out of 100. So there could be people coming in, or there could be people just who are going to need to watch it by recording. Hand up here for me if you know how to use the hand, or you can use the chat, I don't mind. Hands up if you're already delivering NDIS services as an unregistered provider. Okay, there's one. Two. Not many by the looks of it. Alrighty, 3. So really, out of 37 people in the room so far, that's not many people. Alrighty. Yep, terrific. All right, let's kick off. I'm just going to share my screen because I might be whipping around to different screens as well. So we'll just start off with the event right here. We've got a question. Take yourself off mute, ask it. I'm sure if it's a question for you, it could be a question for others as well. Okay, so how do you apply for registration? Okay, you need to do it through the NDIS Commission's website. Now, I'm just going to do a quick show and tell. NDIS Commission. All right, somebody speak up for me if you're not seeing my shared screen, because I hate it when I talk about something and I think I'm sharing, but I'm not. So please speak up if you're not seeing NDIS Commission's website right now. Okay. All right. So when you're going to apply, the first thing you're going to do is starting your registration application is go NDIS Commission portal login, applications portal. You are going to be asked to sign in. If you are not a PRODA, if you don't have a PRODA account, then you are going to need to get yourself a PRODA account first before you can sign in and start that application. Okay, so if you don't have a PRODA account, you may as well leave this meeting today and go and make yourself one. Now, everybody calls, when people speak about doing something on the NDIS portal or the NDIS Commission's portal, they keep calling it PRODA. I've gone into PRODA and I can't find this. I've gone into PRODA and I can't find that. They're not going into PRODA. They're going into the NDIA's or the NDIS's platform, or the NDIS Commission platform. PRODA is just a gateway. If you know, for example, that when you go into the ATO's website, you have to go through a gateway, right? That gateway that you go through is similar to PRODA. Okay, PRODA is a gateway which identifies you, makes sure that we don't have 10 people accessing somebody's NDIS or NDIA account. PRODA is the gateway, and when you log in via PRODA, you have squares that are the taxation department or NDIS website or the commission's website. So you have a variety of tiles to choose from. PRODA is not where you do the work as a provider or as a participant. PRODA is the gateway. So I just wanted to say that because so many providers talk about, oh, my PRODA account won't, and they're really talking about the commission's website or etc. You're not applying on PRODA for a registration. You're applying through the commission's website, but the login gateway is through something called PRODA. So the first thing you'll want to know is, do I have a PRODA account? If not, go and get yourself one. It'll take a couple of days unless there's issues with your ID, and then it might take longer. So do that first. Okie dokie. Now, you can start getting yourself ready before you do the application, but there's kind of little point. I guess it's just good to go through it sequentially. So how do you apply for registration? You get a PRODA account, you start your application through the NDIS Commission's website. It's fairly easy to navigate your way through that. That's not the biggest problem in the world. What you're going to find when you get there is you're going to be asked a whole lot of questions, of course. And those questions are going to be, what is your business name? If you don't have one, don't bother going in there because you can't register without that. Okay. So you need your business name and your ABN, etc., to be able to start your registration journey. Yep. Now, I want to stress, if you are if you are a sole trader, and I want to differentiate the language again that people come to know, like PRODA and the commission's portal. People think that a sole trader is somebody who only works alone. No, a sole trader as a business entity is something that is registered under your name.
Sorry, Gina, I think something happened to your sound.
Pardon? I'm sorry, can someone say that again?
The sound's gone quiet. You're a bit quiet.
I've gone quiet.
Oh, it's good now.
Okay. Was it too long? When did it go quiet? At what moment? Could you just let me know which moment so I know what you missed out on?
Oh, Gina, I just got
At the drink.
Have a drink of water.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Let's just leave these behind just in case they're causing problems. Okay, so sole trader. I want you to be really clear about what you're going to be registering as, because I have people coming to me as a sole trader and they thought, oh, to sell my business and I can't sell my business because apparently I'm a sole trader. That's right. You can't sell your business as a sole trader. So don't register as an NDIS provider as a sole trader, because there is only one way through that you have to then get a company and you have to re-register that company, and the registration associated with your sole trader business, if you are a sole trader as an entity, a business entity, will just die. There's nothing that can be done with that. There's no transfer possible. A registration for NDIS is attached to an ABN. That's the primary thing it's attached to. So if you register it as a sole trader because it's going to save you money, you don't have to register as a company. You are only going to cost yourself more down the other end. Also, please let me add to that you as a sole trader, when you are registered as a sole trader, you will be putting yourself personally at risk, because it's not a company, it's you personally. Your ABN is attached to you personally. The other thing that is at risk with that is that you can't sell your business. Anything that happens to that business or that you might do wrong, or there might be a claim made against you, is against you. You could lose your house, you could lose everything you have. So it is not my recommendation that you ever register a sole trader entity as an NDIS provider. And even if you have a lovely, successful NDIS business running and you've got no intention of selling that business, so you're happy with that entity registered as an NDIS provider. I have people come to me and go, I want to be a home care provider, or I want to apply for this particular tender. Well, their eligibility criteria will not be met. So I've got someone who wanted to be a home care provider. They've been running an NDIS business as a sole trader entity, as opposed to as a one-person show. They have to start all over again because home care won't even indulge giving a sole trader entity a registration. Okay, so that's really important information so that you don't make a very costly mistake, and it could be costly from a number of reasons. My recommendation is that you register a company. I'm not going to go into any recommendations about trusts or anything like that. That the basic requirement is for you to do well and not be put at risk and not have to have expenses down the track, is to have a PTY Ltd company to register, and then you can start your process. The next thing it's going to ask you for is it's going to ask you to do some, to pick the services that you want to provide. If you don't understand that, I suggest that you get some assistance, consulting assistance, or etc., to find out what services that you want to apply for. Often we see people that have registered for every single service there, which you seldom do anymore. But I mean, that's just ridiculous because nobody's going to provide every single service there. So think about it strategically. What is it that you want to provide? Yeah. What is it that you're able to provide? The next thing is so that's choosing your services. Then you're going to be asked, based on choosing your services, you're going to be asked to do a self-assessment. There's no ability to be able to buy a standard set of self-assessment answers anymore from any of us consultants, because they won't accept that. So you need to write a real response to that self-assessment. It's not an exam. It isn't particularly, it hasn't got the biggest amount of impact on your application. But if it's really written poorly, or you've used somebody else's, or it really doesn't match to the person that you are, there have been people whose registrations have gone all the way through to commission and turned down at that point because of the dodgy answers that have been given. And one of those examples is that I think that two people came to me and said, could you help me? Could you help me? Me and this other person have both been turned down and the self-assessment answers didn't even apply to them. They had different names in them and things like that. So yeah, it's got to be non-dodgy. Okay. So you've got to make some effort to write the self-assessment answers. It doesn't have to be, you're not going for a high distinction or a distinction. You're just going for a good show. Yeah. So you just want to be honest, straightforward, and put a few words in that self-assessment that apply to you. Okay. Now, if you don't know how to do that, yes, we do run a service where we sit with you, we take information about you and your skills and etc., and we help you to come up with, we'll come up with the answer for you after we've collected that information from you. Now, how long does the registration process take? How long is a piece of string is the answer to that. So from the point of view of once you've had your audit and it's submitted, 355 days is the average in the last quarterly report. That means that some will be quicker and some will be slower. My experience, and there is nothing in writing anywhere that officiates this at all, my experience is that if you apply to be a behaviour support practitioner, you will get about a 3-month approval date, because they want those people in the market. My other second hunch is that if you are in an area of greatest need for a particular service that you've chosen, you will get an expedited approval process from the commission end. Those are hunches, they're observations. That's what I've seen. I've seen it always with the behaviour support practitioners. Now, one day, it's not yet, I don't think, there's not going to be a great need for behaviour support practitioners anymore, and maybe that will change. But at the moment, they're my observations, okay? In terms of getting ready, it is how long is a piece of string, and we say that to people. What's the benefit of registering for NDIS? Good question, Lisa. At the moment, and you've got a bit of a moratorium after the legislations were changed. At the moment, they've said you don't have to worry about mandatory registration until about June of this year, okay? But let me tell you about the market. There is about just under 16,000 registered providers in the market. 16,000 registered providers. In the market, there is well over 200,000 providers. So that means we've got about 235,000 unregistered providers, which is totally unacceptable, always was, always will be. How any government department could have allowed that to happen bewilders me, but you know, I have I'll move on from there or I'll never stop. Now, there are levels of registration that will come out, but there is also a mandate that anyone who is support coordination or SIL is going to have to be a registered provider. Okay, so that requirement will start in June. Now, they're not going to like suddenly go, well, you're not registered today, 1st of June or 30th of June or 1st of July, so you're out. It's going to be right now, start. And we're going to give you some time. That's what governments do. They give a moratorium, they give a certain amount of time for people to get registered. And then after that date, if you're not registered, they will say, okay, no more. If you've ever seen Seinfeld and there's the soup Nazi, no more soup for you. You won't be able to deliver services anymore. So June, July is when that is going to happen for SIL providers and support coordinators and platform providers. At the moment, you can keep running your business if you're unregistered, but after that, you will have to. And for everybody else who's new coming into the service, you'll simply just be introduced to a new registration requirement. Support workers have to be registered as well. Yeah, there's no, like, I had this conversation with someone. There's no sole traders. There's nothing benign about a sole trader. Why should they not have to register? They're doing work with people who are often complex and have a lot going on. Yeah, sole traders, yeah, you got to register. You're going to have to register. Support workers, if you're working for yourself, you're going to have to register. Now, depending on, it's risk-based. So depending on the types of service that you're going to deliver will depend on the level of registration you will be asked to undertake. And they've already made it clear, if you're a support coordinator, we consider you high risk. If you are a SIL provider, we consider you high risk. If you are a platform provider, we will consider you high risk. Support workers who are going to do work in SIL homes and they're independent support workers, yeah, you're working in risk. You should be made to register. So those will be the requirements. I'm just going to check these questions. Okay, the questions are, how about an NDIS recipient using their funding for use? How about an NDIS recipient using their funding? I'm not going to touch on the NDIS self-funded participants because that's not what this webinar is about. Platform means higher up, which is where support workers can be found in a platform. So it's a platform, a software. Higher up is a platform, and My Integra, or I think it's called, is a platform, and Mabel is a platform, and they've gotten away with not being registered, some of these platforms, and now they have to. One last question before I go on. Will allied health providers like occupational therapists, speech pathologists, physios register? I know if you are not registered, you cannot manage NDIA funding on participant plan, but wanted to find out if we still know. You'll all have to register, but bearing in mind that if you're APRA registered, you will still only have to do the lower level of registration, which is super, super easy. Verification level is just a walk in the park. In fact, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that professionals and APRA registered people should only have to do that, because we audit those, and sometimes I see an absolute muddle and misunderstanding of what their requirements are under those very, very minor 4 standards that a verification level provider is given. 4 standards for a verification level provider, as opposed to 24, 25 standards for a core module 1. I'm an OT working in a very remote WA. I got stumped on the self-assessment with the question related to restrictive practice or not. I believe yes or no. I believe yes, given we assist with harness, etc. for wheelchairs and are exposed to complex VDV, homelessness, Indigenous clients, etc. If you're working with restrictive practice, then you go into the high risk. That's simple. So we can come back to that, but I won't get stuck on that. But please, Christina, bring that back to me. If we have some time at the end, I'm happy to discuss that one a bit more. What documents are required? Okay. Oh, about how long does the registration process take? I talked about the time from submission. How long it takes you to get ready depends. That is, how long's a piece of string, how much work you're willing to put in and get it done. We have people that have gotten ready in 2 weeks. We have people that we are still chasing after a year. We have people that we often chase for 6 months. 6 weeks is an average. If people work, now how long it's going to take you on your own, I don't know. It depends on how much you understand of this process and how much you can do. There are options. You can come to a consultant and get them to assist you, which I'll send you something in an email afterwards, or you can try and do it yourself and pay. If you just get stuck, you can say, right, I need a consultant to help me get through this bit. You can purchase consultancy at any number of consultancy firms, ours included. So you can have a go, see if you can do it. If you just can't stomach it, or you just can't do it, you can then pay someone to do it. The fastest we get people through, like once I got someone through 2 weeks, they were an absolute machine. And the good ones, I'd say the good ones that do the work, go away, collect the documents, come back, put them in orderly fashion the way we ask them to and show them to, 6 weeks. And then we have all the other tail enders of that, which, are all over the place. Look, if you start delivering services before you're registered, you are going to take longer. It's that simple, because you're not going for a provisional registration. Provisional means you don't have any clients. So if you have clients, you are no longer provisional registration. You will be a certification registration. And because of that, they are going to look at all your client files, all your staff files, and you have a lot more compliance to do. So if you're thinking of taking clients before you do it, my suggestion is always do the registration, submit it before you do anything. Yeah, otherwise they're the people who take a year to get their act together and get it done. So you're much better going in as a provisional provider, so that you can get it done and then go on your merry way if you are still within the time frame before they make registration mandatory. Yeah. And remember, next year, for all those providers, which quite frankly is the majority, platform providers, support coordinators, and SIL providers, that's a majority number of NDIS providers out there. So you will need to register from start to get register from about July next year. Obviously, there is always the situation if there's a change of government, and looking how well Labor has done, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a change of government. They're not going to dismantle anything at all. So none of that's going to change. They're not going to rip away any of those mandates, because they should be stronger in my view and in Liberals' view. My work is in the arts, health and creative, an aging recipient wanting to access my services. Do I need to be registered? If you want to deliver services to an NDIS participant, if they are agency managed for their funding, you cannot see them without being registered. If they are plan managed for a period of time until the requirement kicks in July, sure, if they're plan managed or self-managed, you can see them if they don't have any agency managed funds. But that, as I said, that will stop this year. What am I saying next year? That will stop when they mandate registration at different levels for different things from July onwards. Okay, so you've got a certain amount of time that you can see clients for without being registered. Okay. Now, may I just put a proviso in there that you cannot, if you're unregistered, you cannot work with a client that has a restricted practice. You cannot do SDA, and you cannot be a behaviour support practitioner. There are the things that you cannot do if you're not a registered provider. Documents, you're going to need policies to address those practice standards. So whether you write them yourself or whether you purchase them and go as they are, or whether you purchase a series of policies and you purchase a series of policies and you tailor them to yourself, it's up to you what you do, but you'll have to go with all of the policies and documents. And believe me, they're not interchangeable with aged care. They're not interchangeable with old policies. You really need the right ones. Okay, they've got to be absolutely tailored to those practice standards. Okay. What are the requirements for becoming a NDIS provider? Well, sadly, on my part, not too much, which I just find obscene. But you know, I would really have liked to have seen that different, but it's probably never going to happen. So not a lot, but it depends on what sort of provider you want to come. If you want to become a behaviour support practitioner, well, clearly you need to have some behaviour support practitioner skills and experience. If you want to become a speech pathologist, clearly you need to be a speech pathologist. But if you want to become a provider of just general community participation and things like that, although it says a certificate 3 is preferred, and that's really hitting low, then that's it. That's the requirement. And we have people who don't have any experience in this market whatsoever becoming providers. So unfortunately, there's a really low level of qualification and experience needed. So I'd like to see that change, but there's a lot of things I'd like. So what's really important is, if you don't have any skill in disability or aged care or community services or health, what's really important is, I see some of the best providers actually really good business people who know and are sensible and logical, and they put the right people in place and they do their homework, and some of them make the best providers. So it's not about having all of the experience across all these sectors, these services. It's about being a good service, a good business person, and knowing what you can do and what you can't do, and when you need to hire. We see some really good outcomes from people like that. And then we see people who go in with experience and they make such a muddle. being able to be a support worker and being able to be a support coordinator and being, you know, someone that's worked in health or something doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good business manager. And we see that through audit. We see that through the muddles and the complaints and the incidents and the, you know, and I've always thought it's not fair to make someone pay you for you learning on the job. It's just not fair. So, you know, I think if you don't have the skill, partner with somebody who does. And, you know, sometimes I'm really surprised. Some support workers have some amazing common sense and ability to understand that quality and compliance are important, and other times not, you know, with all providers, with all applicants. Just see what the questions are. For providers who sell assistive technology as opposed to services, yeah, you'll still require registration. It will just be a lower level of registration for that's called verification. This new registration will knock out a lot of support workers, etc. Which is, look, there's no oversight of these independent support workers. I don't mean to sound like the dragon, but there's no oversight. There's a mess and a muddle, and they're not taught to detect deterioration. Nobody's watching them. I just disagree with so many support providers, independent support workers. I think the majority do not do a very good job. They might be lovely to their clients. They might be. They might do the very best that they can. But do they have the skill and the knowledge to do it in line with the quality and safety standards, or just quality in general and safety? No. And I think that's why we've seen the muddle that we're in. Now, requirements. So I've just said, you can see a list of requirements on the Commission's website, should you wish to. Do I need to be registered? We've covered that. There are some things you cannot do without registration, and other things you will be able to up until the time they change, that legislation becomes live. I think we've answered these. Costs of audit. Okay. The costs of the audit. How long is a piece of string? There are some companies I avoid like the plague because they charge because of their name, whether that, well, PwC used to be one of them, but they've been purchased by Citation now. So Citation is an audit company. It's going around buying up everything it can get its hands on. It's purchased QMS. I've worked with QMS for 5 years, and I gave every opportunity for Citation to show me that they were doing a good job, and they weren't. So I will no longer refer to Citation, and they've bought up so many. So there's you will find some of the companies will say global, they'll charge you 10,000 for what somebody else will charge 5,000. So please shop around. So costs, if you do it all yourself, the preparation, it's only going to cost your time. If you're not able to do that, and believe me, there's no shame in not being able to do that, because it's not the easiest process. It's simply not. And whether it's a time component or you just don't understand it, you can hire companies to do that. So the going rate for that is around, you know, $3,500 to get a consultant to walk you through the whole thing and do a great deal of the work for you, with you. But we can't collect your documents. You're the only one who could collect your documents. So there's some things that you just have to do. So there's that component, and then there's your audit component, okay? And that could be really, my experience is a new provisional provider with a core module, etc. It's probably looking at around 4,000 for their audit. If you went to one of the expensive ones, you might find that 6, 7 because they just think they can charge that and they get away with it. And then if you're a provider with a core module, but you've also got the complex care and implementing of behavior supports and, you know, the module 1 with all the nursing care stuff, you'd be looking at not 4,000, you'd be looking at 5.5, probably 6, something like that. So there's that range. Now, if your verification, which is, your allied health professions and your assistive technologies, etc., you'll be looking at around, on the good side, 1,900 for the audit. And for the package of care to help you get registered as a verification if you needed it, you'd probably just be looking at like $2,000, which will give you all your forms and templates and the assistance with the registration and understanding the compliance, etc. And then your audit cost, which is around about 1,900 if you find the right audit company, like the one we use. So they're the range of costs for verification and certification. Verification and certification. They're the two levels of registration. So verification, low level, means verify. We're only going to verify at a desktop audit, which means we won't meet you. We'll just have a look at all your documents and see. So that's verification. That's for low level, low risk. And then there's certification, high risk. High risk being you're providing support work. Higher risk, you're providing complex nursing care or behaviour support. Okay. So 2 levels of registration. Now, come July, and I can't go into that because it's not set in stone. They haven't written them. They're still working on them. There will be more levels of registration. There'll be, what we're saying is there will be different levels of registration. So instead of having just verification and certification, so low and high risk registrations, there's going to be about 5. And that will be different levels, different shades of registration to reflect, not putting too much onto people, more than they need, but putting more onto the people who weren't getting enough, requirement and compliance. So that's what that's looking like in costs, etc. The time is always on the person getting registered. A consultant can only help you to a point if you are not collecting the things that you're being asked to collect and doing those things. We just keep nagging you, and if you're doing it on your own, you just have to keep your own time management. So the registration group. So if you're new, if you're new at this, then I've always suggested that you just go with put your best foot forward. What are you good at? Just go with that. If, we have people come in and say, I'm a support worker, I want to register, I want to do SIL, I want to do module 1, complex care, I want to implement behavior support. And I say, please don't, don't say this to the person, but I can see that they barely managed to put together the compliance tasks that I've given them. They've barely managed that. They've barely managed to understand what I've said to them, yet they are wanting to do the 2 most risky services. And I say, please don't. Please just go with your strength. Your strength is you're a support worker. Let's just do community support maybe in people's homes. Let's just go with those. And in 18 months, if you're shining, if you're a shining star with that, maybe add some complexity. But no, he decided that he would do that. And of course at audit, the auditor said, I don't think we're going to be approving you for module 1 and module 2A, which is implement restrictive practice, because he showed his lack of knowledge in that audit. So go with your strengths. Choose the things you're going to be good at. You can add later. Yeah. And if you spread yourself too thin thinking, I'm going to deliver all these services, you're not going to really be buckling down and really building the stuff that you know well, which is probably, I think for some people, support work is a stretch because they have no idea what they're doing. We think that just going out and supporting someone is a simple task. Well, it might look like it, but there's so many risks that are innate to that situation of knowing, how to work with someone, how to assess and risk assess them, how to monitor their progress, keeping your eye on whether you're meeting their goals or not, doing your job by writing, progress notes and, doing it all again the next day or the next shift. So, choose what you're good at, go with that, because in 18 months after you deliver services, you're going to get another crack to add some services. Now, questions. Do people that register now have to register after July? No, they won't make you register again in July, if you're already registered, people will just go through to the next cycle, and then you'll have a sort of, you know, there'll be a slightly jigged re-registration process. Do people that register now have to register? This is right, and it's so sad for their clients. Yeah, the new registration. Yeah, it's sad for some of the clients, but yeah, you know, I just think choice and control has been weaponized, completely weaponized to the detriment of the person with a disability. Do people that register now have to register after July? No, it's that. When is the other types of audits going to start? Well, like I already said, we won't be required, people won't be required to start registering under the new registration types levels until July of this year. And of course, they're going to give a moratorium period of time for all the unregistered providers. And I can't tell you whether that's going to be a year or two. It could be 3, because really the moratorium on that is going to have to take into account how long it's going to take the NDIS Commission to get through that backlog. But my God, they barely manage with the 500 or 400 applications a quarter they're doing now. How do you think they're going to go when 200,000 people start getting registered? Am I right, Gina? You are going to share this recording. It would be good if you can. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, God, did I hit the record button? I certainly hope so. But I think I did. Yeah, I heard it. This sounds like a point in time. This sounds like a point in time compliance activity. What does the governance framework look like post-audit registration? Will the NDIS conduct their own audits? Well, there's talk about all sorts of things, and I don't think that I know that they're hiring some auditors, so they must be doing audits. But will they take the entire auditing component back? Doubt it. I first entered into public policy in the 2006, 7, 8, can't remember, in the quality team in DADIC, which was disability aging, yeah, before it became ADIC. And we did all of the quality audits internally for all of the disability services in New South Wales, because I've been a quality auditor since 2005. We did all of those ourselves. I think by its very nature, it's a conflict of interest for the business to be running the audits. They need to be independent. I support very much that they be outsourced, but it's gotten so big and so much like seagulls on a beach fighting over chips that it's become just this commercial monster, which it never should have been, which is so sad. So there's a lot to be said around that, and I don't know where they'll end up. I do know the commission run ads for auditors, so they're obviously doing some audits. What that is, I'm not 100% sure, but it certainly isn't the quality audits for registration or midterms or re-registration. I don't know what their plan is down the track, but it would be a very long time in implementing if there was any change. So back to here. So at the moment, what you'll have is your registration audit, whether that be a provisional, no clients, or certification, you have clients. And then you'll have 18 months later a midterm, and then 18 months after that, which brings you to the 3-year mark, you will have re-registration, which is a thorough audit again. If you're verification, you will go 3 years. Now, they're the 2 levels that we have, and I can't speak to any other levels that will come in the future because it's a long way off and they're not finished, or they haven't publicized them. And they're not even finished being put together. There's been calls for, papers and collaboration and stuff like that. So can't do anything about that. So the compliance and ongoing obligations, you would do well to be having an independent internal auditor, unless you're an auditor yourself or you're really, really good at it, that the auditing and quality auditing, you would do really, really well. And here's where I see the best providers having an internal audit company like mine or others out there in the market come in every year and do an internal audit, so you stay on top of it. You become more educated every time you have that. The knowledge that the providers take away with them is extraordinary, and we just see people just doing so well from that experience. I think it's really difficult to audit your own, because do you have the unbiasedness to to be able to audit your own and really do yeah, are you unbiased is enough, to say that. And that's assuming you have the understanding of the standards. And some do, there's a large percentage of people that are really good at quality, really good at governance, really good at risk. And I trust anytime that they'd be great doing their standards audit. And there's a lot of people, the majority, and I always say 80-20, 80% of the market just do not have the skill and the knowledge to do it. You are best off. You will save time and money and stress just getting an internal auditor in every year to do your auditing. Clearly, it needs to be at least 6 months before your commission audit's due. Otherwise, you get yourself into such a big muddle of stress that it will, it's not worth the upset. So there are reasons people can, if you look, I think it'd be really interesting if you go to the NDIS Commission's website and you look through the banning orders, compliance orders, just Google. The Commission website's like a rabbit warren. So just go to Google and Commission and Google NDIS Commission compliance orders, and you'll see that there are people who have compliance orders against them. There are people who have been, organizations have been suspended. There are organizations who have bannings as well. So you'll see, that the NDIS Commission have started to do their job. I think there are some people that have been banned for a period of time, and I just think for some of them should have been banned for a lifetime. But if you go there, you'll see what goes on in the sort of provider compliance space. So it's by complaint and incident that providers will often find out about what's going on, and then they'll step in. The regulator will step in, the regulator being the NDIS Commission. So maintaining that registration is an ongoing thing. I don't think we'll touch on the code of conduct so much as that I might just open it up to some more questions. I know I've answered some as we've gone along, but so I'd hope to be able to bring home that registering is easy for some people. It's a walk in the park for some who just have been around this stuff for a really long time. And for others, it's very confusing. And then for others, again, they're probably capable of it, but they don't have the time. So there's a mixed bag. You can, like I said, you can try to do it yourself. Remember, register for a Proda account first, because you won't be able to get in without that gateway identity software. You won't be able to get in and start your application in the portal. To me, the application in the portal is a walk in the park, but it was even in the beginning when I first started this. It's just I've been around this stuff all my life. But for some, it's not, it's a hurdle. So you can seek assistance from a consulting firm to help you with all of it, part of it, or etc. But no, let's open it up for some questions. Looks like they might have all been asked. I'd ask you a question. What do you think would be the biggest hurdle for you in your mind in getting registered as an NDIS provider? And I mean, I'm sorry, I will apologize. I don't come into this like, hey, everyone, get registered. I want you to all think about it. I want, want you to do it, but I want you to think about it and know, wow, okay, these people that will be looking after their lives really do matter. So, Gina speaks a bit rough about some things, but yeah, because I want you to really think about the lives that you'll be caring for when you take this on and do it well. I'm whoop, whoop. Bye, Sharon. We have a family at the moment who want to register as a provider for their daughter's service, so I decided to attend the refresher thinking, no worries, it was good to see you, and hopefully I'll see you at one of your events in the future. Thanks, Sharon. Let me try and go back to where we started here. I'm a counsellor. What kind of registration do I start? Okay, so you'll be in therapy, which is verification. Okay, but remember, you wouldn't be able to do. You can do counselling. You can't do support work. So, if you want to be counselling therapy, go for verification. Easy peasy. But if you need help, get in contact. Remember, that's the one with the 4 practice standards. 4 practice standards verification for therapy. Christina, I'm scared that being an NDIS provider may pose barriers for my clients in very remote settings. There's going to be levels of registration, and they're not going to have a choice. Eventually, unfortunately, the market has shown that they are naughty, they misbehave, or they don't understand, or they don't care. That gate is going to shut. They're going to all have to register. So we will, as a market, and a sector, we will work our way around making sure that remote settings are not disadvantaged. We will get there, but the registration is a non-negotiable, unfortunately. What is the best category to register for as a beginner? Oh, I really like your question. What a wonderful question. Register for core, but just start with the basics, which are the meat in this. They are the bread and butter of NDIS services. Community access and participation, personal care. Maybe you'd take group settings just in case you got to that. And transport, domestic assistance, and maintenance. So they're the basics. Start with them, do it for 18 months and see how you go. Is an office required for? No, absolutely not. You can work from home. Absolutely not. You're very welcome, Manuela. Example, clients who do not have a home or move a lot in the home environment assessment is not reasonable. Were you talking about the assessment that you have to do? Yeah, well, you just have to be innovative and figure out ways that you can do that, and meet the criteria and meet the client's unique set of circumstances as well. I assisted an organisation up in far north Queensland. They're an Indigenous organisation. That client group has its very own unique needs. Assessment was difficult. They go, we can't, because they won't sit still and they see this coming, this group of, I take in all my paperwork and they run for the hills. I go, well, have you thought of not taking in the paperwork? Have you thought of doing that assessment over 3 or 4 sessions? So we worked and we workshopped, and I taught them how to like, it's not the first time, like, my very first assessment in home care and all of the programs I worked in under home care and aging on the front as a coordinator. Of course people do that. I just broke it up. I mean, I didn't go, I'm not going to do this. I just thought, okay, I'm going to get this bit done. The most vital, which will, what's the thing that'll kill them the most? Okay, I'll ask those questions. I'll get what I can. I'll gather what I can from everyone I can, so that I'm not asking the same questions over and over again. You just find innovative ways to do it. I have my diploma in community service and will be doing mental health. Will this help me with support coordination? On paper, yeah, but what experience do you have? I mean, I'm sorry to say that I see a lot of community diplomas, and they obviously been done by RPL. So I hope yours is one that's done in a classroom, whether it be virtual or not. It will get you through your registration. I want you to ask yourself, what do I know about recovery? And if you don't know what recovery is, I want you to attend a course on recovery coaching. And we run one, every now and then. But please, people going and doing psychosocial recovery coaching when they can't even tell me what recovery is, I think it's really sad. But yeah, it'll get you through. Absolutely. But cost for basics? What's that replying to? I'll just look back for a minute, Cara. Cost for basics. What do you mean by cost for basics, Cara? Can you elaborate? Well, Lisa, you know what it does cost, but it's an incredibly lucrative business. Yeah, it does cost money, but it is a lucrative business. And my goodness me, it's a rewarding, fun thing to do as well. Yeah, look, I hate to say it, but the NDIS has made more millionaires than anything else that I know of. I have done it in a classroom. That's really good. That's really good. That's really good. All of those are really good. Someone asked the question about basics, as in basics. Basics of, the basics services to deliver. Right. Okay. As a first timer. So cost for basics. Okay. So for that, you're looking for the core module. You'd also have assistance with medication and assistance with clinical waste, because you would be, helping people with personal care. That's where you're going to get, with the people I use, the reasonable auditors. That's where you're going to get, a fee. For me, assisting someone to do that is $3,500, but I give you everything you need and the learning and everything like that. But that's where your audit's probably going to be around $3,500, $4,500, yeah, with a reasonable auditor. And so that's your outlay. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Cara. So yeah, that's a really good place to start, because those services, they really are the meat in the sandwich. They are just they're the majority of things, and it's a really good learning environment. I've been a support worker for many years, working for a few organizations, and I've seen so much dodgy things towards participants. That's why I want to register to provide genuine and honest support work. One organization that's just started up here in my local area has been started by two people who have a long criminal file of domestic violence and have done time in prison, yet they are able to please report them, and just maybe they got through and nobody knew. They should never have got through. By all means, send me the information afterwards. I love taking that stuff to the commission and LinkedIn for that matter. Thank you. What else? Any other questions? Look, I know that it sounds like a lot of money, and I am not a spruiker for becoming an NDIS provider, but when people want to become an NDIS provider, it gets me up in the morning that at least I'm able to help some people do it properly. I'm a registered BAS agent and want to become a plan manager. What's my cost to start? Well, if you can register yourself, nil for that. And if your audit is still verification, so with our audit, the audit company we use, it's usually around 1,900. Some of the other audit companies might charge you 4 or 5, but yeah, that is called a verification low level registration. Okay. Yeah. So if you wanted us to help you, we charge $2,500 for that to do the whole thing with you. But if you just wanted the documentation from us, I think you can get that for like, I think it's like $750 or something like that. I was told a story about a big company using a client's money and charging them grade 2 and oh gosh, that's a minimal compared to some of the other things that have happened. Do you know that the reason plan management is kind of being bought up by big companies, and I think there's something dodgy going on in the background. Well, not dodgy, but there's something going on that we all are not privy to. It's because there are so many plan managers who just got people to put their, sign up for their plan management, and then they just siphoned all the money out of the plan to fake entities, or entities that were real, but they weren't doing the right thing. So yeah, there's some really, really, really bad stuff. So that is a bad one, Lisa. And there's some really bad ones. Like it really is. It's book worthy. It's just things that you would never even have thought of. I think that greed is like lava. It will find its path of least resistance. And that's what people have done. Christina's what's happened here? Is a certificate 3 a requirement as a provider? As I said, it is. They like it, but sadly, it's not required. And anyway, do you know what? I don't think a certificate 3 really means very much. So it's more about. It doesn't say that it's required. It just says it's a good to have. But certificate 3 or experience. So there's just not a lot of. There's not a lot of. What's the word? Sifting through people that are suitable for this. Not enough of it. But yeah. So if you don't have a certificate 3, if you're a really great business person and you're prepared to get the people in that you need to do the work, that is a good strategy. How do you get paid through the NDIS? Well, it can either be through plan managers, because funding is held in a couple of ways. One, the NDIS may hold it, and that's called a stated fund, and you can only work with that person whose funding is held that way if you're a registered provider. 2, there is plan managers. They're called intermediaries. They're usually accountants that are registered as plan managers, and you don't have to be registered at this moment, but in time you will need to be. So you're either getting paid by a plan manager, the NDIS themselves, or a self-managed person who is in charge of their own funding. They will pay you directly. So 3 ways of being paid. What advice would you have for becoming a support company and having independent support workers approach and try take your clients? Oh, okay. If you've got support workers and they're taking your clients away, you know what? It is seagulls on a beach with chips, unfortunately. I would have the strictest code of conduct, have them sign it. I would have a contract that outlines exactly the same. I would be very careful about what kind of relationships they're allowed to build up with their client. I would just risk assess the whole situation at all of the portals where people could do that. At the end of the day, this is where I said that choice and control has been weaponized. Choice and control has been weaponized. So I would just try to really find out where all the points of pressure are for how people get away with that and try to block them in every way through paperwork, okay? And if you find out that they have in any way coerced that client, which is the seriousness that's a serious thing, I would report that support worker. If you think they've coerced them, which is what the support workers and support coordinators do, I would report them so that they're on the worker screening check forever, okay? Because coercion is not okay, because they're weaponizing choice and control. I've gone through the process of registering to be NDIS registered and will soon be audited. My main experience before was being a support worker, so I've only registered for those services for the company, community access, say personal living, not anything high intensity. I've been quoted 3.5. Is that a reasonable quote? Yeah, if you got 3.5, you're doing well. Additionally, For services to people in mobility aids like wheelchairs, would we already need mobility friendly vehicle to show the auditors? Oh, no. No, you won't need the vehicle. No, they have no right to ask for that. Patricia, and a detailed agreement. Yeah, absolutely. The detailed agreement when hiring them, you can't stop them, but you can shine a light on what this behavior is. It's a sharp practice. It's a conflict of interest. It is they are that coercion is this make it really loud and clear on their onboarding in future. But when you find out from the client, how did that happen, or if you believe that they have coerced them, even approaching them and saying, look, I'm leaving, do you want to come with me? That's not okay. That sort of thing you should be having in your agreement that says, no, you don't get to tell them that. We'll tell them. At the end of the day, they're not going to stop. But so as much as you can deter them from doing it in the first place, and when you feel there's coercion, report them. I did a massive write-up about, do it on your Facebook page. Make it known, that's just like bad behavior. Because seldom do I really think that a support worker's gone, oh, I want to come, as a participant said, I want to come with you. I'd say it's the coercion of the person setting up their business, which is just wrong. As an allied health professional, you can't do that. So why should it be okay for these guys to do it? Put it in your code of conduct. It's on in the Canberra NDIS group. Oh, cool. Okay. Send it to me, Patricia. We should do more, naming and shaming, I reckon. Platinum certificates, most recent audits. Okay, well, they're new, so that's why they're coming in with cheaper prices. And their prices will go up. It's a good price. Get it. What about client onboarding? Is there still specific ways to gain attention as new businesses? What about client onboarding? Is there a specific way to gain their attention as a new business? I'm not really sure of the context of that one, John. Can you, or is that not meant for me? Is that just meant as an add-on comment? But please explain that one, John. What about client onboarding? Is there a specific way to gain their attention? Yeah, just unpack that one for me. If self-managed is here to stay, or are they being pushed to agencies? No, I think the self-managed people have been behaving. I haven't seen any major reports of fraud for that. Name and shame, you risk getting sued, but nah, they don't have the money to sue you. But do it in a oh, watch out for such and such. They did this. Public interest. Is someone I'm just seeing if John's going to unpack. What about client onboarding? Is there specific ways to gain the attention of the new business? No problem, everyone. Look, thank you. And I'll say a big thank you to the people who are watching this after the live version. I'll send you out an email. You'll know where to catch me. And anyone who is going to send me something, please do. Yeah. So if you're going to get registered, go and get that product. And all right, guys, have a really great weekend. Thanks, Manuela. Thanks, everyone. No worries, guys.